Hello, hello. Well, I am back. I don't know anyone else is, and I am going to go ahead and share up some links and tweak up some things. And oh my goodness, what
Oh,
a
live again?
paused. Matt, are you back with us?
I am. Andrew did get the link to the new stream, so hopefully it starts back up. I'll go back on to
Oh,
pull up this and pull up the chat right here. All right, there he is.
We're
oh
back.
my goodness. I am so embarrassed about all of this. Andrew, thank you for your patience.
Oh, no worries, man. I know things happen, so it's all good.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
I thought I had it all figured out so I could change PCs. My one camera's not working, so I'm like, okay, I'll just use this loaner that's got a working camera. What a mess. What a mess.
We're just old now.
That's
We
the
don't know how to,
truth.
how to
That's the
hang with the
truth.
kids.
All right. So Andrew, as if you guys don't know about him, he's a very talented hip hop graffiti artist, is how I describe his style. Me and Carl, when we were talking about it, it's very complicated, but at the same time, very easy to read and very natural. It's a lot of fun. He's working on a book right now called Sovereign, and it really looks like something else. Something that the comics industry is like in dire need of, and that's actually fun and actual fun content. Um, to just rib on the comics industry once again. But
Yeah.
so yeah, what exactly is Sovereign? Who are the characters?
Sovereign is like you asked what or like talk. You want me to talk about the story, or how do you want me to?
I guess let's start with the story.
Okay, so well, the I know it sounds a little generic when I always say like post-apocalyptic future. Everyone always says that. So, but this is very. It's just basically the world that I created in order for me to achieve my goal, and the goal in mind was to create another Marvel or DC type of universe. Um, and again, there are involved, but they're not your traditional superheroes. There's no like saving people from a tree or a burning building or anything like that. I mean, that could happen, but it's probably not. But
Um,
so I wanted to basically evolve the idea of a superhero. Like I love Spider-Man. We all love these characters. We grew up with them, but they have become stagnant due to the properties just being so worth so much money, and these companies just cannot, for some reason, they just don't want to go forward with their stories. These characters, they can't do anything. It's like the Simpsons; they're just stuck. And
oh yeah, I will say the MCU is a much more desirable fate than Simpsons season 29. Um,
oh yeah,
I
and
can't believe I always think it's a joke when I hear Simpsons is on its 29th or 30th season because I'm thinking there's no way. And there it is, 30th.
yeah, it's amazing, man. It's
So right here, Scott Bruckner, a regular on our stream, and a really friendly guy. He says Sovereign is basically cooler Captain Planet. What would you say to that?
it's true. Yeah, it is like he's like a Captain Planet type character, and one I came to realize while working on this thing was that it's just very hard to come up with something new, different, and interesting and get look cool. And just out
I
there.
like the scope of the story you can try to tell, and even out of those first couple images that you've shared on Indiegogo, and just in general, you've shared character sketches on your Twitter page. You really get a sense of what kind of world you're getting into, and it's exciting. Like it's not really boring or really soft looking. It's brutal. It looks fun. It looks crazy. It's the kind of stuff that makes me think this is what indie comics should be pushing.
And yeah, I'm glad you said all that. That's again to the whole sovereign thing. And superheroes in general. I just want like I really like when Kingdom Come, happened with DC. I was like excited. I was like, wow, this they're going forward. I want to know what happens with their kids. With what happened? Do they retire? All these questions that we do love to ask and wonder. Um, and then when Marvel did Earth X, I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like Captain America got old. Hulk and Bruce Banner split. Like it's just, and then you're like, what happened? Like it just invigorates the characters. You know, like it's not bland, it's not dead anymore. They're like alive again and they're growing, and you just want to know what happens to your favorite characters. So that put that like seed in my brain. That's sparked the idea of like, okay, I'm gonna do characters that like I want to evolve I wanted to go forward. I wanted to look. What if we created superhero? Not in the 40s, because that's what all those guys are, the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Mm-hmm.
What if we created superheroes today? And Image did that in the 90s. They created the 80s. So now what if we did it today? And that is Sovereign, Aztec, Massive, Hubal, Nara, all these crazy characters that I have in the works are basically like the modern superhero universe. And I just wanted to push the limits, push the like deaths really happen. These characters are extremely powerful. There's cosmic beings, like it's everything that we love about a superhero universe, but actually like it matters.
Yeah,
And,
consequences. Marvel
consequences.
Marvel plus consequences.
And
Yeah,
and no, go on.
I was going to say it's really interesting. We had the Sportman guys on last week too, and one of the things that I was most struck with is something that I've been making comics for almost 2 decades now, and one of our hard and fast universe rules, there's actually quite a few, but one of them is dead is dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you've got ghosts and things like that too, but dead's dead. You don't come back from that one. And when the Sportman Studios, they were in the same situation. They were like, that's one of our rules. And you're talking about making sure that your heroes have stakes, that it means something, that it has weight to it. And dead's dead. I think that's one of the really interesting that this seems to be amongst a lot of this idiom of creators. That idea being such a hard and fast one is interesting.
It's tired to see, they try to play it up like a big deal every single time. This character's dead, they're not coming back. And you give it 6 months and they're back, and there's some twist, like now he's got lightsabers on his hands, or now he's a zombie, he's a Nazi. Yeah. It's not fun. It feels like they're insulting your intelligence as a customer and a fan.
Yeah, see, and I'll be honest. I was going to say,
I just wanted to say,
the villains escape death, I don't mind so much because that adds. I mean, there's something to that. Like they actually got away with it.
Yeah, they actually got away with it, but not when it's like, and they use the cosmic cube out of some child, and they make up there's really stupid explanations for it. Like I like when there's the big, almost Greek mythology like things where it's like they went down to hell and they had to beat the devil, they had to conquer hell, and that allowed them to escape or whatever. I like that. I don't like. Oh, if we did this and we punch the universe just right, then we get Red Hood back, or we get Jason Todd back. That was I've talked about that a million times. That's still really stupid.
Oh yeah, like you said, everything that's a big one. That it insults our intelligence. It just makes you. I mean, especially when the comic books are like $5. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is what you're giving me for all this money. And
yeah, it's like essentially, $60 a year is quite the investment for something like this.
It's crazy. Like Netflix is better deal.
Well, I would say that for the most part, and then but Netflix has gotten into a bad habit of publishing some really terrible stuff.
Oh yeah, they do have a lot of crap, but I mean, when they
but for every terrible thing, you also get stuff like Daredevil.
Right. But imagine if Marvel had at least their ratio. Right now, it's like they don't even have that. Like a lot of their books just are not good. And
the only one I've heard good things about right now are Venom, and Nachos, another regular in our chat, has also told me that Immortal Hulk, despite all the shenanigans, his death and everything, it's actually apparently a very fun read. And I might actually give it a try, but I'm also, how about Marvel?
Right. I've heard those two are good. It's just not a good look when your main books are just bad. Like the main ones are bad.
Well, they try to. What I always hated was you point out this is terrible writing, and the regulars or the people that are, I'm gonna say, like in charge of the industry and the people that the industry is marketing to, say, well, if you are not a real comic book fan, because if you were a real comic book fan, you know this type of terrible writing is just regular. It's commonplace. Comics have always been about crappy soap opera writing where no consequences exist. And I can't stand that. Like I feel, like I said, I feel like it's an insult to my intelligence. Like when video games are giving a lot of that much better.
You know what? I kind of agree a little bit with that, but the big difference here is that back then they actually loved the characters they were writing. Like the creators back then actually respected and loved. Like, look, I don't know, whatever, but I really believe that back then creators were like hardcore superhero comic book nerds. Like that was their life. Like they loved these characters. So when they ended up writing them, they came up with some cool stuff. Now you have creators who don't. I honestly don't get that from. I don't get that feeling from them. I don't think they really like Wolverine or they like the X-Men or they're just using this Marvel, whatever, as like the next job in their resume.
I've definitely got that feeling, that especially with the disrespect for continuity that a lot of these books have.
Yeah.
Sorry for cutting you out, Andrew.
No, can you hear me?
I know. I just feel bad because I feel like I keep stepping over you when you try.
Oh no, it's cool. It's cool. I don't. Maybe there's a lag, but it's cool. It's all right. But I agree, and it's just that's another thing that's been bothering me too. It's like they act like they really care, but in my eyes, if you really really loved these characters, like if you really loved Wolverine, you would have never given him lightsaber claws. You know what I mean? Like if you really loved, I don't know, Captain Marvel or whoever, you would write these characters better. You would write. You wouldn't just write them how you want. Like I love Wolverine, and I'm like personally, I'm like this Mexican guy from California who loves hip hop. I'm not gonna make Wolverine listen to hip hop because I love hip hop. You know, like
that's something else. Is it's the self-insert bits with these characters that they've taken on. Like Spider-Man was kind of getting very slot-ish, and you could feel it. Now going back to you and talking about hip hop, I remember you talked about on Twitter that you were a bit of a rapscallion, a little scallywag when you were younger. You actually did a lot of graffiti, right?
I did not a lot, but I did enough to get in trouble.
Like you get taken to the police, or how does this work? I've always been curious.
It's it's illegal. So basically, how it works is you just go to your hardware store or your art store that has spray cans. However you want to do it, you can buy them, you can steal them, whatever. Most steal them, and then they just you wait. During the day, you look around, you find a spot you want to paint. Like, oh, I like that. You're kind of like Ocean's 11. You're kind of going around during the day, looking for the spots you're going to hit and how you're going to get in there. How do I get on this roof? How do I do that? And then when the night comes, you wait till like 12 at midnight, 1 a.m. And then you get your stuff, you get your backpack, and you go on these missions and you get the job done. And the goal is to just paint. And once you're done, take pictures. Hopefully the next day it's still there so you can take daylight pictures. And that's it. And then rinse and repeat. You do that every day.
How do they get rid of that? Like if it's still there, like how?
They just paint over it. There's a lot of craziness to it. Like like one of the big controversies or big legal things that graffiti people always argue and fight with is like the law enforcement and all them, or the city, whoever. They try to make it seem like there's so much damage being done to these properties, when in reality you can literally just paint over them in like 5 minutes. And so they make up these random numbers like, oh, you did $1,000 in damage, and you can go to jail for a long time. Like there's been graffiti writers would get more jail time than a rapist.
Oh God, dear goodness. And a question for Andrew from the chat. Scott asks, have you ever used poster board as canvas for your street art style?
Poster board. Maybe. I think so. I used to do some pieces on on wood, on canvas, on different stuff, but the fun is the walls. Like get a spray can, and there's just something fun about it. It's bigger. You use your whole body, you use your arms.
People are gonna see it too.
Yeah, people are gonna see it. It's just fun. You're out there in the sun. Yeah, if you want to do it like on the beach or have a chill spot, you can bring like music, have a barbecue while you're doing it. It's the best. Like you're drawing a huge thing outside and everybody's like watching you. It's kind of fun.
Now, were you like part of a group that did this, or was this all you? You got buddies for it?
Yeah, it actually started with me hanging with friends who I just happened to be friend. My friend was like a DJ, and then he was associated with the graffiti crew, and then we with this graffiti crew more and more and more, and he got involved as well. And then because I was hanging with him all the time, I got involved. So I never officially got in the group because I didn't care to be in the group, but I did kick it with them, and we would go out and paint together and stuff. So it'd be a few of us.
Another comment coming in. I guess I never thought about this being as fun as it sounds, although it's illegal, so I'm probably not going to do it. And
Yeah.
Scott said, that's my girlfriend saying that. Scott says, Andrew, have you ever heard of people being commissioned to do street art murals on the sides of local businesses?
Oh yeah, that's there's a lot of guys that actually make a living off of the graffiti. If you build enough of a rep, if you become famous enough, like if you're like one of these big guys like Saber or Obey, everybody knows Obey, right?
I'm afraid not, but I'm also a white kid from the suburbs.
Okay. Do you remember a famous Obama picture?
The one from a couple years ago, or from when?
When he was running the first time.
That Hope image, yeah.
Hope, yeah.
Hope. Obey. He's not a graffiti. What do they call it? Damn it. Street artist.
Street artist. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
So Obey, this Shepherd, I forgot his name, Shepherd Ferry, I think. He basically just literally went. I saw it when he was in his prime. He blew up LA. Like there was Obey posters all over the place. Like he did damage, and he just was going hard. He got arrested like 17 times in his career. And then he got into the clothes. He started doing his own clothes. And then when Obama came around, he got really political. So he decided, like, Obama didn't even commission him. He just did it out of his heart. He plastered this Hope image all over. And it made it. I don't know if it helped. I'm sure it did help, but he put a lot of work for Obama. And then after that, he just blew up. And now he's rich. You know, if you want to get one of his pieces or get him to do something, you have to cough up thousands of dollars.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, actually, that's a question I've got for you, Andrew, that I've never really stopped to think about much. Is there a lot of connection between the street artist scene and the graffiti scene there in Cali?
Yeah, they're kind of there's a little bit of like I want to say beef, but there's a respect between the two guys. Like there's graffiti writers who write with spray paint, and then street artists usually do other things, like Banksy. He's a street artist. Yeah. They'll
like Banksy, Sabo, all those guys.
Yeah, they'll just leave like crazy images or wheat paste posters, or they'll do different stuff like installations or whatever. But there's a respect. As long as all these guys really care about is how much work you put in. Like if you are going out every night and you wake up in the next morning and you see this guy's all over the city, like damn, he put in some work. Then that's how you get respect. You're like, this guy's legit. He's serious. Yeah, there's a respect there. What the interesting thing that most people don't talk about is that there's a connection between graffiti guys and comic books.
Right.
Lots of street artists, lots of graffiti guys love comic books. And with that, and that's how I think I got in it, because I was into comics first, but then I got into graffiti, and then to graffiti, I realized that we have a lot in common. And except they're illegal, and our stuff is legal. So
now, what was now we've talked about Spider-Verse before, or you have on Twitter. You did say you liked it, I believe, right?
Yes, it was cool, but I had some issues with it, and I come from a specific background, which is the graffiti street culture.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you how
So
you felt about that in the movie.
yeah, so I appreciate like the shout out. I appreciate like them acknowledging the culture and things like that. But the graffiti in the movie was just like wrong. imagine if like imagine if a movie wanted to rap like I'm just gonna use Mexican culture, right? And instead of using like a real like taco shop or like taqueria or whatever, they use Taco Bell.
Yeah,
So
that's why I wanted to ask you about the authenticity of it all. Because when you're describing like going and finding these places and everything, I was like, oh, so kind of like in the movie.
yeah, and a lot of people didn't understand because obviously not many people that in the comic community understand where I'm coming from. Some of the I do have friends that are hip hop and graffiti, so they get it. But everyone else is like, "What do you mean? What's wrong with it?" I'm like, the graffiti was off. Like all you had to do was just Google graffiti and just imitate the styles you see. But there's a specific graffiti that artists and creators always do. It's like this whack pretend graffiti. Like, let me do some graffiti, but you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Or it's like it's the factory default, you could
Yeah, it's
say.
the default. Like, oh, I write squiggly, and that's graffiti. Like, yeah, technically that is graffiti. There's a lot of kids in the beginning when they start, they suck, and that's what when you suck, you write like that. You write like squiggly, but they emphasized that Miles Morales was like doing this for a while, and then his uncle was doing it, like was a legend or hitting the hip hop scene, all this stuff. So it's like I was expecting a dope piece, and then when they showed the stuff, I was like, oh, this is whack.
Yeah. One thing with his uncle I actually noticed is when it was playing "Hypnotized" by Biggie Smalls, and you could hear like the different words that they were like cutting out to make it a kid-friendly movie.
Yeah.
That got a chuckle out of me. Now back to Sovereign. Now you said that you developed your style over time. When did your art and graffiti kind of blend together?
Okay, I'm gonna remember this question. I'm just gonna log off, and then I'm gonna log back on. Cool.
All right, sure. All right, so I guess.
You shouldn't kill the stream if he logs off. So we're shutting.
Oh, but when you do it, it kills everything.
I know. Just shut my browser window. That's what I should have done.
Now, really quick, while he's gone, do you guys have any questions for Andrew?
Well, actually, I do have a question for Andrew, but I'm going to follow it up after he talks about his style a little because there's some stuff about that. But Andrew, you back?
I'm back.
Awesome.
Oh yeah! Wow, you are much louder.
Yeah.
Sorry, am I too loud? I can lower.
No.
No, that's good. Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, I was on my phone before, and now I'm on my desktop.
Phones are so quiet. Like I tried talking to people on them for like through Discord and stuff like that, and it's really quiet.
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, continuing off the question. When did you start as an artist? Were you always, because everyone always tells me, oh, I was drawing when I was 3 years old. They put me on the fridge, and that's when I knew I'd be an artist.
Well, it's similar story. I did start drawing around the age of 3. I think we all did. But the difference is I just kept going with it. But I didn't know what I wanted to be. I just had this weird thing to just draw everything I saw. So like, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, we had Ninja Turtles, Mortal Kombat, all these Street Fighter. I was like, all these things look cool. So I want to draw them. And I did. I would just draw everything that I liked. And then eventually I kept going and going. And then in high school, I realized that I hated school. And I would just draw on all my homework.
That's what I tend to do, but it's not because I hate school, but it's just because, I hope my teachers never hear this, but it's just what I'd rather be doing is like coming up with ideas.
Right.
I still managed to get good grades is the funny thing.
Oh no, I got bad grades.
But yeah, like that's always the story is that your grades suffer for your dreams. And I guess I'm pretty absent-minded, but I still managed to pull like B's.
Right. No, I got very lucky. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then, but the thing that I noticed is that I was always the best artist in school, and I just kept getting better and better. And then by like senior year, or whatever, I thought I was like the best in the world. and then I finally got online. I discovered DeviantArt at its prime, like 2004, 2005. I found Pencil Jack. I found all these dope comic forums, and I realized I was not good. I was okay, but there was so many guys better than me, and it just humbled me incredibly. I was like, damn, I suck.
That's I was actually describing that as kind of, I call that the Mario Kart effect, where you feel like you're so great at Mario Kart or you're so great at Street Fighter, and you just immediately just go online, everyone kicks your ass, and you're like, you have fun, but you're like,
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, once you go online, the world changes. There's just some hardcore people out there, so you don't know until you get on there and find out. So once I realized that a lot of guys were better than me, I did a couple of things. I wanted to know how old they were, because that's a good way to know where you're at. A lot of the guys better than me were older than me, so I didn't feel too bad at that point. And then my next move was like, I gotta catch up. Like, I have to be better. So I just would draw, work hard, just every day, and then eventually I just got good enough to start doing comics professionally.
Yeah, no, when did you start? When did your career as an artist? Because you say before we started the stream, Andrew was telling me that his full-time job is an artist. Like, he's not like Mr. Reese, as Danielle likes to call him. Mr. Reese does his work on the side after hours, or I guess before hours, because sometimes you work into the evening, don't you?
Yeah, I keep really awful hours.
Right.
But yeah, now when did you decide? Like, when did you really make the commitments? Like, I'm not gonna go into whatever. I wanna be an artist. This is how I want to provide for me and my family.
Well, it's funny. I guess I had no choice, because I just hated regular work. I wouldn't last. There was one year where I had like 8 jobs.
Like part-time type of jobs, like
just anything. And I couldn't stay. Like, I would only last like a few months, then get fired, or I'd quit. So I'm like, damn, what am I gonna do? And
I always say it's like missing the boat, right? Like, you see it going in and out, and you want to be on there. It's not the best for you, but you want to get on the boat and head out there.
Yeah, like, I'm trying to be like everyone else. Everyone else has a job and all these things, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm just not into it. It just doesn't. It's not me. So I just would keep drawing, putting stuff online, and then eventually I just started to get commissions. Like, I would get a message like, "Hey, do you do commissions?" I'm like, "What? Like, someone wants to pay me?" And then it just took off from there. I just started hustling on these commissions. I would make sure they were done really well, so when I posted them, someone else would then commission me because of that commission, and it would like a snowball effect. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, the internet ruined the term snowball for me, but that's a much dirtier topic than we're going to be talking about.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'm a bit out of there.
No, I'm just joking with you. Anyway, yeah, see, we've got Sporkman in the chat now. Sporkman is here. Let's see what else is going on.
Hey guys.
Yeah, Nacho says comics needs more art like Andrew's, and that's another thing I was talking about. We really need more like out there styles. Like, I mean, there's stuff like, if you can draw like John Malin, like I consider John Malin like a good modern artist, like, to compare it to. That's really good. But if you draw like, the really simplified, like one tone color stuff that Marvel puts out now, it's very popular. The Steven Universe kind of looking stuff.
Right.
I don't know, less of that and more of just out there stuff, especially when it's so high energy. Like, that's what comics, especially superhero comics, they need high energy.
So when it comes to looking at comics, like artists themselves, are there any particular people you draw inspiration from that are already named?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Sorry, can you repeat that last one?
Okay, I was going to say, when it comes to talking about your style and your development there, are there any other comic artists that you really kind of pull inspiration from?
Okay. Well, in the past, in my teens, I discovered Joe Mad, and he became a really big influence on me. Like so much so where my work started to like look too much like his.
Mm-hmm.
When I was posting stuff online, people were like, "Hey, you're like a Joe Mad clone." And once I hear clone, I get pissed. So I made a promise to. I still enjoy his work, but to not look at it anymore. Like study it. I stopped studying his stuff. So, and I just started drawing from my head. Like I would look at people's stuff, but I would just try to draw on my own so I could break out of that, shake out of that clone stage. And eventually I did. But other guys I did look up to were like Todd McFarlane. I liked Eric Larson in his prime. Loved Art Adams. Loved, and then if you want to go like the more Japanese route, I was obsessed with like the Capcom artists. I was obsessed. Yeah, Bangus, Akiman, Daigo, whatever. All these weird name dudes. Masami Obari, Ninja Scroll. Like I became obsessed with just big art, like characters that were just proportionally illogical. It just didn't make sense, but it looked cool.
But yeah, you don't care. It's like, you know, they say, oh, this is unrealistic. I don't care. It's fun.
Yeah, and that's a thing that's kind of a thing that I that's my philosophy on superhero comic art. It's like these characters are supposed to be gods, basically. So why am I going to try to draw them like a regular 6'2", 200-pound man? Like, let's just have fun here. Like, there's guys that already do that. Let me like put some steroids on it and just go crazy and see what happens.
Well, definitely. And one of the some of the names that came into my head looking at your stuff, some Bernie Wrightson. I have forgotten the dude's name. He did no, not what I was thinking of. Joe. No, can't remember the guy who did a bunch of Batman stuff. He did. Kelly.
What era of Batman?
Baron's Sandman miniseries. Kelly Jones.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Okay, Scott wanted to ask. They're talking a lot about this Twitter account called 2Hottie7 Art, and he describes it as a simplified version of Andrew's style. But he highly recommends looking into this. Have you ever heard of this Twitter account? Any of you?
I don't think so.
I'm gonna check that out in a bit.
What is the handle again?
2Hottie7 Art.
2Hottie. Okay, I'll check it out.
So yeah, let's see. I guess getting back on the topic of Sovereign, because that's your big thing right now, and then we'll talk a bit about Dragon Ball and like what you really loved about the Broly movie. Now, Sovereign, you've said you've been working on this for I want to say like 20 years or something. Like how long?
Yeah, pretty much. That's a good number.
All right. So like, when did it start?
It started either in the late 90s or early 2000s. And it's really all because of, like, as we were talking about earlier, about like Kingdom Come and Earth X. Those future stories really gave me the idea to like, I want to create this world that takes place in the future where things have changed and characters are just kind of like, because again, Spider-Man and all them guys, they were created like in the 50s, 60s, etc. But what would happen if Jack Kirby, I was thinking like this, what if Jack Kirby created characters today? So that's how I was,
because I get a lot of fourth world vibes from your stuff, from Sovereign in particular. But yeah, I'm very modern, like a younger generation's version of the fourth world heroes. There's a lot of mythology. I was going to ask you a bit about that. You see, like, Sovereign, I believe you talked about the character himself is a god.
in a way.
did you draw from like Norse mythology, Christianity, Greek mythology?
No, I wanted to stay away from the popular
real
stuff.
world religions.
Yeah. Like that's one of my philosophies on how to make the superhero comics better. If you can just stay away from political
real world.
Identity politics, if you can stay away from racism,
yeah.
if you can stay away from religion, like all the things that kind of will offend somebody and can kind of like
start a fight and
like not even just the fight, but like I'm trying to think like life is already kind of hard, so I want to provide some escape.
Some escapism, yes, that's what I feel like. That's one of the biggest things that's been dying over the past several years with comics is escapism.
Mm-hmm.
One of the elements, like one of the elements you have too, is that if you, by not directly tying to any known mythology or story structure, it allows you the freedom to deal with the ideas and the concepts, those meta ideas, without being constrained by anyone's emotional attachment to this box of ideas or that box of ideas. So that's actually a pretty smart way to do it.
Yeah. Like I just did a lot of thinking. You know, like the reason why it took 20 years is because I thought about like, because you know, when 20 years ago I was I don't know, like 17, whatever, you know, I was in my teens or late teens. And again, I wasn't like wise enough. I didn't have the experience, the knowledge to really figure out what I want to do, but I did have ideas. But it takes time to really like.
Yeah, these things need time to cook. I know I've seen some people give you flack about this online on Twitter.
Yeah, like the other side, the SJW people, they make fun of it, but it's clear they don't create, they don't know how to create anything, so that's why they make fun of it. But they don't know how it works. But all these creators or whatever examples they want to use that say, oh, I can create a character in like 2 weeks, whatever. Like, yeah, but it's not a good one. Like you can.
Can you actually make something interesting out of it?
Yeah, like I can create something right now, but it doesn't mean it's going to be good. So I finally, and I also took into account why are comic sales, like why are American kids and all these things, why are they not reading superhero comics, but they still love like Naruto and Dragon Ball and One Piece. They read manga, but they don't read these books. So there's a lot of things I wanted to figure out. And how do I, when I create my story, my characters, how can I make the best of it, or grab the best parts of what makes manga and all these other things work and try to put it into my own work. And I think that what I'm doing is going to work, but that's the plan. I want it to be fun. I want people to laugh. I want people to cry. I want people to just go like crazy with the fighting. I'm not trying to lecture you. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I just want you to like enjoy the ride. And I think that's what's mostly missing in superhero comics. It's just the ride is not fun anymore. And I'm trying to make it, you know, I'm trying to bring back that fun. So that's why it took so long. You know, it takes time. And now that mainstream comics are just not like they're not fun at all anymore. They're at its lowest. So this is like the perfect time for Sovereign. So I think it's good timing.
Yeah, it's opportunity, and that's something Reese has talked about before. Is how this kind of rebellion, and that's kind of what I would kind of say. It's like punk. It's like punkish. It's rebellion. You know, against mainstream comics is bringing out all these people that like, you know, kind of had given up or really thought there's no way for me to get my name out there. You know, clearly $700,000 on a frog book later, everyone's thinking, well, maybe it is worth looking into.
One question I have here, Andrew, you've been working on these stories and these ideas and these characters for a couple of years. What is your process with writing? Because you do your own writing, obviously. I mean, do you come up with thoughts, or do you come up with the themes first, or how do you do that?
Well, yeah, everyone's different, but one thing that's unique with me is that I consider myself just an artist. So I'm coming at it from an artist angle, and originally I just have these cool character ideas in my head, and I'm like, I have to put them on paper. I want to see if I can make this idea in my head look cool on paper. And I did that, you know, and then when I put Sovereign down the first time, he looked cool when I was 19, but
You
when I
were,
look
yeah,
back,
you see all the improvements that you've made, and you're like, oh, thank God I thought of that.
oh yeah, man, and then when I look back, I'm like, oh, I'm lucky I kept like I kept them cooking. You know what I mean? It was a slow.
Yeah. Like I even with some of the ideas I developed over the past 6 months, like I've gone back on them and I'm like, oh my God, it spooked me a little bit.
Oh yeah, like yeah, and I know that's not a good way to get things done, but for me, I just I have to get it right. I'm really anal about it. So, like you said, I had this character, and then once I had this guy down, I'm like, what is he? Like, what can he do? What are his abilities? So and then I figured out what can he do and how strong he is, all these things, right? And then once I figured out what he can, like, oh, he's super strong, he can fly, he's almost invincible, all these things. And I'm like, okay, that's very generic. So I just let him sit there for like years. I don't know what to do with this guy. It's just kind of generic. I mean, he looks different, but whatever. And then you know, maybe I'll have some dreams. Maybe I'll be drunk or high or something. And then I'm just, you know, I'm just going through life, and maybe I'm stuck in traffic, and things will start popping up. Like, oh, what if he's like this? Or maybe
Yeah,
I'll
that's
see.
where the best ideas. The best ideas come from the most bland situations.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And it's like when you're not trying, they just start coming in. And or maybe I'll see a movie that's like sparked something. So
Yeah,
and
movies will get me too, and I feel like that's a bad segue off of saying something bland.
mhm.
But yeah, movies, I was gonna say, is another great way, because you know you're going to see Spider-Verse and you're like, wow, that's a really, you know, some of these ideas are really cool. You see Broly and you're like, oh, these are also some really cool ideas.
Yeah, I got some comments on that, so that's good that you bring that up. But
We'll segue into Broly right after one more question from the chat. Nachos had asked it, or was asking, what inspired your color palette, and was it just graffiti?
oh, my color palette is done. My colorist, well, I can color too, but my colorist is Joshua Perez, and he grew up on the same things I did. Like he loves anime, and well, he basically just loves anime and Transformers and stuff like that. So he was just like the perfect colorist for Sovereign, because Sovereign is anime influenced and also a lot of mechs.
Yeah, I noticed
So,
there's katakana in the title.
right. So he's the perfect colorist for it. So I just love him. I will give him a lot of direction, but so far he's nailing it. So I'm happy.
Let's see, and so we're gonna read off some last comments from the chat before we switch completely into Dragon Ball movie. But Nacho says, does getting high really work for ideas? I know loads of scientists took drugs, and I think he's asking for a friend.
I think it just depends on the person, but for me, it does. I don't know what it's a weird thing. The best way I can explain it is like you're in this state of mind, and I get this idea, like I'll read something, or I'll be thinking of a plot, or maybe a character for Sovereign, or something I need to figure out, and I don't know what it does, but while I'm thinking about this stuff, while I'm high, I don't let it go. It's hard to explain, but it's like I'm looking at this idea from multiple angles, like constantly. Like I'm just thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. I cannot let it go. I can't move on. And next thing you know, my mind goes a whole different direction, and I'm like, whoa, what if this happens?
So you come out and you're like, you come out of whatever room you're smoking in, and you're just like, it's like the bush spoke to me.
Well, and actually, I don't know how this might relate to substance use at all. But typically, part of my process, especially if I'm coming up against writer's block, is I just leave it. I walk away and I have an idea in my head, and I just go on about my day, whatever it is. You know, changing the oil, or playing with the dogs, or walk. And then when I'm not paying attention, my brain fills in the details again. And so when I come back to it again, I know what I'm about.
Video games really get it for me because that's my comics were for you guys a lot growing up. I got into comics late. Hashtag comics late. But as a kid, I loved video games. That was what sparked my love of creative stuff. Is I didn't start with cartoons, which I love. I love cartoons and comics, but video games are really the basis for all of my entertainment career, I guess, or at least indulging in creative. Not my creative. Okay, both, but yeah. But video games, like I'll be playing a fighting game, or I'll be playing League of Legends, and I'll be thinking I'm playing as this one character, like, this guy's fighting with chains. Oh, that's actually really cool. That looks cool. Yeah, what would that feel like? And then you start thinking, it's like, oh, what if I had my own version of it? What's my take on fighting with chains or fighting with claws? And then characters will spiral out of that.
Yeah, that's it's that weird break. You just have to take a step back and just stop trying. And then the ideas would just come. Sometimes I think it's just a creative mind. There's just people, like regular people, they literally don't think about this stuff. They just think about, what am I going to eat? When am I going to go out tonight? And that's it. Like they just don't care about anything else. So with guys like us, or people like us, we're just always in a different world. We're not really living in the moment. We're like kind of constantly thinking about something else.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it being of a creative mind is thinking way in advance. But to get that topic on, I have not heard back from Nerd Wonder, so mistakes happen. She might just not be here tonight, but I was looking forward to that. But at the same time, I guess this gives us more time to talk about the creative process, and eventually,
that's cool.
Yeah, let's talk about Dragon Ball. Broly, the movie finally came out, and it was announced like ages ago. The show, I have not finished Super, so I know what happens in it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously a lot of that ties into the new movie. But I follow the English dub because I love the cast a little too much.
Okay.
Now, with this movie, what really stuck out to you? Like, because you were talking about how much you loved it on Twitter. What really stuck out to you in this movie?
I think what really stuck out to me was it caught me off guard, because originally, when I first saw it, like many months ago, like the trailer or whatever, I thought it was like whatever. Like it did nothing for me. I wasn't even. I mean, I was a Dragon Ball fan years ago, but I moved on. And but basically, my 7-year-old son, he is obsessed with Dragon Ball. So when he saw the trailer, he's been wanting to see the Broly movie forever. Like he would ask me every week, "Is it out yet? Is it out yet?" And I'm like, "It's not out yet, but when it is, we'll go watch it." So I took my son to the movie. I'm thinking he's gonna like it, and I'm like, whatever. I'm just gonna sit there and whatever. But while watching it, it was actually like a really good movie. It just made me feel like that kid again that woke up like 6 in the morning to watch Dragon Ball Z.
Oh yeah, I missed out on Dragon Ball as a kid, and I regret it because I feel like I would have loved if I gave it a chance. Because when I was a kid, I was like, "Oh, this is dumb," but if I gave it a chance, I think I would have found a lot to love that I do now.
It basically was like mad nostalgia. Like it just brought me back to being a Dragon Ball fan. So I just loved it. And then on a technical level, and as an artist, the animation was crazy. The fighting was innovative. It was different. It was like hardcore. Like it was just good. It was just it was good. It was a good story, good fighting, charming characters. I
like the new take on Broly. That's one of my favorite takeaways from the movie. Is instead of just being this really wimpy kid that got really massive, and I do miss him talking more. Like I do because I liked some of the lines from the original. But this reimagining of Broly, I liked when he was like he's not really that violent of a guy on his own, but when he gets angry, he doesn't stop.
Yeah, he's definitely got like some kind of PTSD or something.
I mean, that crappy planet he grew up on probably didn't do him any favors.
Yeah, he was already he already had anger issues as a baby. So then when you drop him in a little alien world that's like no one can survive on, then he's gonna probably grow up a little messed up.
And then I also liked, he was when the other people were getting to know him, and like the new characters, Chilai, who was immediately turned into porn as soon as she hit Twitter.
Oh yeah.
That didn't take long at all. Chilai, and I forget the other guy's name. But the I loved I love these new characters, and one thing I really love is, I don't know if you know about this, but Chris Ayers coming back to voice Frieza. He did it in he was not the original Frieza voice actor. He did it for Dragon Ball Z Kai, and he actually had to get a double lung transplant about a year ago.
Wow.
And they told him that he had the lungs of like a dying old man or something like that. And he's in his 40s as far as I know. But I was really happy to see him again in that role, because it meant that he was healthy, and I love his voice for Frieza. So it was a win-win.
That's cool. I didn't know about that, but that's cool.
Yeah, that was something I did appreciate Frieza in there, especially like, his I loved this whole shtick at the beginning of the movie about basically, he's going after the Dragon Balls for the same reason Bulma is, where Bulma wants to be just slightly younger, so that she doesn't look like she's cheating, but it looks like she's just not aging that much. And then Frieza wants to make it look like he's still growing, so he wants to grow 5 centimeters.
Yeah, it's funny. And it's funny because Frieza's like this freaking
he's
most
a
evil
tyrant
character in the universe, and he's super powerful, and he just wants the powerful Dragon Balls to grow 5 centimeters. It's funny.
That's something I really appreciate about Super. Gets a lot of flack for having a lot of goofiness in it, and one of the things I actually like about Super is I feel like it's kind of an in-between it's an in-between from the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, which Dragon Ball Z was was a lot more serious. You look at the dialogue and compare it to Super and the original. Like, the original didn't take itself seriously at all. It was very, very goofy.
Yeah.
And Z took itself very seriously. It was always the end of the world. There was always a lot on the line, and that was a lot of fun. But I also like there being this middle ground with Super. There is a lot on the line, but there's also plenty of goofy stuff, like Frieza wanting to be 5 centimeters taller.
No, yeah, it's like I said, I really love the humor, the action, and the reason why I prefer it over Spider-Verse or Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, whatever it's called, was if the Spider-Verse it felt more like your traditional, just a regular movie. Like, it was just trying to be serious. It had like the same beats as maybe a regular Marvel movie, just like has the humor, but was trying to take itself kind of seriously at times, trying to be dramatic. You know what I mean? It had this like weird.
My little brother actually said this. I didn't get that feeling as much, because I guess I'm just a sucker for the animation. Like, that really pulled me in and could get me away from thinking about some of the storytelling things. But my little brother was there, and he's about 11 years old, and he was watching it. He's like, I could tell everything that was going to happen in the movie before it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel that way, but like I said, I was also caught up on like a bunch of other things that were going on at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's I don't think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread or whatever.
Yeah, the craze. One thing I actually also really liked, I believe Toriyama did the writing on this Broly movie, as well as the character designs. And I really did like Broly's new design, where he's got he's like, that's Ba's ear, and that's like this big monster he would fight with, and his dad shot the ear off of it.
Yeah. So about that, when you mentioned it, when we were talking about Sovereign, and you brought up Dragon Ball, and it made me think of something that we were talking about, how like coming up with ideas. So while watching Dragon Ball Super Broly, I was getting very similar vibes between Broly and Sovereign. Even they even have the same skirt, or the same cloth.
The same cloth. Yeah, that's actually something I love about Sovereign's design. Is like, rather than just like, it's just a nice little touch that cloth is.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't even think about that. It's like a nice little coincidence. And they're both very similar in their character traits, where they have this rage, and they're just uber powerful. And when they're just like, Sovereign's just mad. He's kind of like he's a Terminator type character, but he's just mad. That's kind of his angle. Like, think of God of War.
Yeah, I was gonna say Kratos.
Kratos, yeah, something like. And what's crazy was I created Sovereign before Kratos, and when I started watching and playing the God of War games, or like the recent one, the way he talks to his son, you know, Kratos would be like, "Boy," he'll talk like that. And I did a little like Thanksgiving fun sketch of Sovereign and Subject 13, you know, like his
Kid.
the kid, the sidekick, the close friend in the story. And in it, Sovereign he says something like, I wrote it. He's like, we don't have time for that, boy. Like, he talks just like Kratos.
Yeah,
so,
that was something I kind of took note of seeing little bits and pieces like that. But I think that's definitely a positive design of his, or aspect of his design. Is, you know, he's this god. He's above everybody else. He's got a terrible temper. But, you know, there is a softer, more human side to him.
Yeah, and I just it was cool to just see that God of War, maybe like the biggest game, one of the biggest games ever right now. It's just amazing. And they share very common similarities between Sovereign. So I'm like, I guess I'm doing something right, because I did that before it was given to Kratos.
You little hipster. Turning into Andrew Hipster over here. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm claiming it.
I gotta say, I can't even hate on that. You know, sometimes you do just do it first.
You do it first, and you would know that firsthand, now wouldn't you, Mr. Reese?
I have been in that boat a couple of times.
You created Spider-Man or what?
No, not that. No,
before Sky High is kind of
my webcomic, The Force is Good and Evil. It's a humorous take on kids in superhero and supervillain high schools, and we started doing the design work on the concept back in 2004, and we put it online on the internet back in 2006 with our little webcomic. And within the first couple of years, I had people who would ask me what I did for a hobby, and I explained the whole thing. I'd be like, "Oh, that's like Sky High." And I'm like, "No, Sky High is like us."
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I guess. And then in turn, right now there's My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
Right. No. Yeah, and it's I'm not even like complaining. I'm just it's cool. Like, wow, I guess if people love God of War, then they're gonna really like Sovereign. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like it does stand out on its own. Like last week, Sporkman was very nervous that this new character that was introduced in Toy Story 4 was going to make his character seem like he was shamelessly ripping it off. And I feel like Sporkman goes in a very different direction than that. And I feel, you know, it's good when your characters can stand out on their own. Like, there are characters, like, I'll try to think of an example of a character that just feels like they're one universe's version of another character that's probably better. Like Killer Instinct has Jago, and Street Fighter has Ryu, and they're very similar characters, which just makes them kind of feel like interchangeable to an extent. I mean, I do like parts of their designs. I do love Ryu especially, but you know what I'm saying?
No, yeah. I mean, you know, it's okay. I mean, if there's enough of a difference, if they're not completely identical, then it's okay. I don't like. I mean, it's weird. Like, you have these, like, you know, the other side, the SJW comic fans or comic creators and stuff. They like to bash, you know, Ethan for Cyberfrog and things like that.
Like, to me, we need more stuff like Rare and Microsoft aren't using the Battletoads until now. Like,
right.
I'd much rather, and I feel like even then, Cyberfrog really stands on its own. But, well, one, because it's disturbing. Like, you know, you look at some of his pictures that Ethan has of the wasps. Like, that's disgusting. And two, it looks very acrobatic. Like, Battletoads is very, you know, goofy in your face. They've got their arms turning into battle axes and stuff like that. Whereas Cyberfrog is like a mutant frog. He's flipping around, very acrobatic, like Spider-Man. It hits very different notes, even if they have like a similar core concept.
Yeah, and again, you know, Ethan said that it wasn't inspired by Battletoads. It was inspired by Ninja Turtles.
I feel like Ethan would not know what Battletoads even were.
No, I don't think he did, or he does. I missed it. But what's interesting to me is when they bash Cyberfrog, but they praise characters like Black Spider-Man, Asian Hulk, and
they're literally the same character, but
literally like color swapping the characters. That's all it is. That's not original. That's not creative. It's not.
Well, some of them, like with some, or there are a few cases, like I do like Blue Beetle, is very different from the old Blue Beetle, and I like them both.
At least that's an upgrade.
Yeah, I honestly, I personally like Jaime Reyes a little bit more than I do Ted Kord, but I do love them both. And then some other characters like Miles Morales, I would actually say, in Spider-Verse particularly, because I do feel like he's a bit boring in the mainstream universe. But I feel like he became his own character, and like I like the idea of stepping up to the plate rather than, oh hey, Tony Stark, this big event just came up, you're in a coma, you're missing, and this girl that's 14 years old and just as smart as you, oh god, there's so much to hate about that character.
Yeah, and it's just not smart. Like if there was a class, I'm sure there's a character design class or something. You just don't trade colors or trade genders. You just don't swap it out like it's nothing. Like Iron Man is Iron Man, and if you want to create,
interesting if they actually just like, because sometimes I see stuff like I see Amadeus Cho and I see Riri Williams and Jane Foster Thor, and I'm like, this could have been so much better. With the same concept, like Riri could have just been his prodigy or something like that, and she's actually like on a rescue mission to try and get him back. Like she's not replacing him. Like she's his prodigy, and he's gone missing, so she's got to put herself to the test to find him again.
And I'm trying to think. I was thinking that there actually was another character that was already like part of the mythos, like James Rhodes had a sister or something.
Yeah,
that was a character in the 90s, right?
Yep.
I guess Marvel likes to recycle.
I'm telling you, and they make it seem like it's like they're breaking ground, like they're innovating, like they're progressive. It's so weird. Like the 90s, I'm sorry, a lot of these people either didn't read comics. It's either two things: they were too young to remember, or they're liars and they never read comic books. They only got into it now because of whatever reasons.
Or they're not really trendy.
That, or they just weren't the fans.
Right. Or you know what? Actually, have an idea. They actually, I feel like the Marvel movies brought in a lot of fake fans. That's what I feel.
Yeah. When I'm talking about fans, like I'm gonna flash back for a second. I don't know, like when you got into comics, Andrew. And that maybe you could talk about, but I'm sorry.
Early 90s.
Early 90s. So you would have been coming on the tail end of when he was a powerhouse on there. But one of my favorite writers was a guy named Roy Thomas, right? And Roy Thomas, man, he was born in like the late 40s, but he was like an Uber fan, like one of the first. He was writing fan magazines back before they were really a thing, and he lived downtown. I mean, he moved to New York City and met Stan Lee and got a job, hustling paper, and ended up doing some writing and being the chief editor at Marvel before Jim Starlin was. And Roy Thomas was a super fan. I mean, he'd like dedicated years of his life to memorizing the lore from the Golden Age on up. And he created the Invaders. And over in DC, he took the All-Star Squadron and made it into its own standalone book. I mean, the guy is diehard about the continuity of these characters. He just loved it. And so anytime he'd write a book, it would be just layered with this continuity stuff. And you see, and then there's other writers that came on later that had a similar kind of passion, and James Robinson in Starman had the same kind of dedication to the project. But like a lot of these writers today, they seem like, and I think they've been spurred on by some other big name writers who have a similar attitude, but they don't care so much about what went before, They just want to get their little piece of the pie and call it good for the day. I don't understand that at all. I mean, if you love comics, you love comics, right?
No, yeah, it's accurate, man. That's the main one. Like they say they love these characters, they love these comic books, but if you love them so much, then why do you want to change them so much?
Yeah, I mean, Mags was going on about wanting to change a mainstream character to be trans. And like I just remember, and there's other times where she's ending, and it's like, oh, I really want to be spreading socialism right now, but I've got to write about plastic toys from the 80s. And I'm just like, that's like everyone's dream job. Everyone wants to do it, and you're complaining about it.
You know, yeah, man. I just don't get it. Like, you know, she's complaining about writing. You're getting paid to write. I mean, she could be a cashier at Target if she wants. You know, she could work at a warehouse if she wants. I don't know. It's just they're so like, I don't know, man. They don't treat any of this with respect. They don't understand what they're doing. They just look at it. It's almost like they're like they think they've made it. Like they're bigger than what they're the characters. They're bigger than I don't know. They have these egos and they haven't even earned them yet.
Well, and the thing that's galling to me is like as a giant dork that I am. I mean, I you know, slept and breathed this stuff for decades, right? And to have somebody be just like, you know, I don't read the backstories. It doesn't matter. I'm writing my story. I'm like, you're not writing your story. You're writing on top of somebody else's story. You know, you wouldn't have anything if it hadn't been for you know, Julie Schwartz or whoever. You know, back up. You know, show a little respect for who came before and who wrote who you know, to put that stuff together. And I don't understand the attitude of writers that'll take like just like take Peter Parker and make him into some sort of joke when, you know, the whole point for me, and this is stepping on a little bit, but the whole point of Peter Parker's story is about growing up, right? He starts off and he's just a kid and he's trying to figure out his way and he doesn't have parents in the normal sense, and he's got all these personal issues, and then he puts on a mask and he pretends he's a man, right? And he's a boy who pretends he's a man. And then as the story progresses, he becomes the man he had pretended to be.
My interpretation of Spider-Man was always more that it was that, you know, the idea of Spider-Verse was that anyone could put on the mask. One of the things that I always got from Spider-Man was that he's like, okay, so there's the phrase that, you know, or the idea that nobody really has their life together. They're just really good at hiding it.
Yeah.
And that's what I describe Peter Parker as, is he's kind of to make you feel better that, like, you know, not everyone can hold these or make it to the dates on time and be really good at their job and have their personal responsibilities, you know. So it was always to kind of make people feel better about, you know, it's hard to manage all these things and you've got to make sacrifices for what's right. And that was one of the things I always loved about Peter Parker.
I think that's one of the things too, is everybody does make sacrifices. I think that's one of the big aspects. You know, nobody gets it all, and even if you're a superhero, you don't get it all.
That actually reminds me of another reason why I didn't like the Spider-Verse is that tagline at the end, like anybody could be Spider-Man, whatever. And I'm like, no, there's only one.
I do feel okay. At the same time, I do understand that, like, you know, I am, because I feel like that's going to be used as an excuse to make crappy alternate Spider-Man.
Yeah, and that's what's been going on. So
the thing I like I didn't care for Miles originally. I just felt like I was like, oh, that's an interesting concept. You know, it's a new kid trying to take it up. He's got some powers. Nope, it's just Peter Parker with the colors changed a little.
Yeah, and again, all this stuff is another reason why I created Sovereign and the Universe. You know, I'm like, I wanted a different mix of characters. Like, there's one thing that's lacking, like I've noticed in like Marvel and DC and even other companies, Image, whatever. They always touch on the same mythologies. It's either Greek gods or Japanese gods. It's always like the same thing over and over again. We never or Norse gods. It's always like Thor and them. And I'm like, how come no one ever touches the Mesoamericans or like the Aztecs and all that stuff? Like, so instead of me,
because the people who have, part of it is that that's been done every once and again, but the people who do it don't really, you know, pay attention. You get people like Grant Morrison, who, you know, doesn't really care about the mythologies he uses. He just likes the color they are. And I don't racially, I mean in terms of like the flair it adds to the story.
Right. But it's still like, to me, I just thought it was getting boring. You know, like, oh, Hercules, it's always Hercules, Thor, Wonder Woman, God of War, rinse, repeat. And I was like, okay, instead of me complaining and me becoming a writer or whatever to Marvel and turning Thor into an Aztec, I decided to
make your own.
I decided to create my own universe, my own character called Aztec. And yeah, I mean, he's like the Thor in the Sovereign Universe. He's like the Thor type. But he is from the Aztec mythology, you know. So yeah, you got to make your own characters. Don't you know? I get it. You want to mix it up. You want diversity. Don't fuck with other people's stuff and just do your own thing.
Yeah, like, and I can understand, you know, if people say you want to see characters that are like you, and I kind of get that from Daredevil because he's a Irish Catholic man named Matt, and I really relate to that I guess, but it's also a bit of, you know, they didn't need to throw people away, or they didn't need to make it say all these things that he's just constantly doing. It's like, oh, Baptists think this,
Yeah,
and the world hates Catholics, and no, like it just kind of it's part of his identity, and there's a lot of complexity to his Catholicism. Like it's not just, some people do just throw it in there and like, oh, look, I am Catholic, guilt, guilt, guilt. And other writers are just, yeah, they make it part of the personality. It conflicts with his identity. It's interesting to read about even from an atheist perspective. Like that should be the goal when you're writing Daredevil's Catholicism.
yeah, and it's basically, you just got to treat these characters like real people. That's it.
Yeah, and even if you want to go over the top and really exaggerate the personalities, there's a way to do it without being annoying. Like you can make really charming characters that are over the top and don't act like normal people, but that's a bit of an art in of itself.
Yeah,
I would agree with that entirely. And one of the things that becomes an issue of that, or a difficulty in that too, is that it seems that there are. Let me back up for a second. I'm a big proponent of the myth of storytelling, right? Where we're telling stories about superheroes, but we're really talking about daily life. We're telling stories about gods and demons and all the other stuff, but we're really talking about keeping our job and feeding our kids, right?
Yeah, like you've got a product to sell, you got to make it good.
Yeah, but one of the things about that is that even though we deal with these overblown, fantastic, idealized people, we still have to be real with our drama. We have to make sure that our characters, they have stakes that matter, and they have that there's some sort of takeaway, and there are real weight to it. Otherwise, it's just fluff.
Yeah, the characters you have to not relate to them. Well, you have to care for them. You have to worry about them. You have to love them. And it doesn't mean making them super realistic. It doesn't mean making them exactly look like you. Like I don't look RoboCop. RoboCop is one of my favorite characters, and he's technically the enemy of who I am. He's a cop, and he's a white dude. So it's like they arrest graffiti writers. You know what I mean? So it's like, but I love RoboCop. He's cool.
Yeah.
And
I have a lot of characters like that where, like, you know, I'm nothing like this person, and maybe that's kind of why I like them.
Yeah, and it goes beyond, again, it goes beyond his race. It goes beyond his occupation. It goes into, he's a human. He's a father. He's when you go to the core of who these people are, then you will relate to them. You will understand them. Like I have now I have a son, so when I go back and watch that movie, and now when maybe he goes through his, I was a kid when I watched that, so I looked at him as like, oh, this is awesome. But now that I'm older and a family man and all that, when I see him, like, you know, he dies and then his life is stolen from him, and he tries to visit his son and his wife, like that's heart-wrenching. You know what I mean? Like that's, man, like I'm there with him, like I care for him, and that humanizes him, and now I want to root for him and make sure he wins and all these things.
Yeah, you want to see them win. Like I showed my girlfriend for the first time ever. She watched The Hunchback of Notre Dame with me, which is one of my favorite movies. And this, I guess, this is a bit of the opposite. Part of that concept. She hated the character Frollo so much. Like she made like, because of how evil he was. Like you can understand why he did the stuff he did. But you could also like, not from a logical standpoint, but like you kind of get inside of his head and see what he was thinking. And when he would do all this stuff, like when he would lock people inside of their homes and set the house on fire, and you know, whip people and make sure that the sting of the one lash bleeded into the next, and all that stuff, it made you hate him. You wanted to see him lose, and you saw all the bad stuff that happened to the main character Quasimodo. You wanted him to get out of his situation. And for the first time ever in my entire life, or my entire time dating her, she actually rooted for the bad guy to die. Like actively, like saying, like actually felt good when Frollo fell to his death.
Yeah, no, that's good storytelling. That's when you got the reader like that, you can basically almost do whatever you want.
Oh man, like I don't want to talk about Kill Bill spoilers, but yeah, you've seen Kill Bill, right?
Of course, I have it.
Yeah, Kill Bill, wonderful movie or movies. Yeah, it's just one movie. They just had to split it, honestly. But they like that scene at the end, like or in the second movie where she meets with Bill and they're not fighting.
They're talking.
And they're just talking to each other. Like that had me on the edge of my seat, and I loved the way that scene was directed.
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the whole movie, and it wasn't when people were getting hacked to bits and having their head turned into like parfait cups.
It's because he hyped up this climax, this meeting of Beatrix and Bill, and it's just like, damn, what's gonna happen? You hype up this Bill, like this master assassin, like the guy that is the like best killer ever, right, in history.
Yeah.
And you just build it up, build, and then when you finally get to that point, you can do whatever you want. You can have him sit there and just talk for like 2 hours. I would listen.
Yeah, he was the actor and the lines chosen for him were really good for Bill. I mean, I loved Uma Thurman in the movie, but he was really charismatic and interesting. Bill was, and that whole thing, you have no idea what's going to happen next because the kid's there. Bill is like, she's in the other room. They're gonna they both know what's coming. They're gonna kill, like one of them's gonna kill the other. You have no idea what's going on, and you love it.
Yeah, it's so. Yeah, it's again, it wasn't a generic, ending. It was very different, but you knew something was going to happen. You knew one of them was going to die. So it's like, okay, they're talking. When it's not even a matter of like, let's hurry this up. It's like, what's going to happen? Like, what are they going to say next? Like, it's just you're on the edge of your seat because one of them's going to die.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I look back, like I watched that for the first time ever at the end of last year, and there was a lot of stuff that really wowed me about it, just like the way the story was told. And they gave like depth to these clearly Bill and the other assassins are not good people. But you can kind of see the one tried to leave it behind Silencer style. Like that's kind of the way I describe Silencer sometimes is basically take that the lady from the beginning of Kill Bill, and if she actually was successful and trying to get away from her life for a while. Yeah, and I still love Silencer a lot. I'll talk about that till the cows come home. But
Such a good book.
But yeah, really good book, really great character. But just so much about that. Or like, his brother kind of left the assassin bit behind. He works in a strip club, or he got fired. And the Bill like has, even though he does all these terrible things, he has like a human side to him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that's like I know I say this a lot, but that's the kind of stuff I love in storytelling.
But
and that was actually, I want to talk about. Sorry for rambling a little bit, but
no, that's fine. But no, that's what makes again these stories so successful, so captivating, so intriguing. Like for instance, Dragon Ball, right? Like they humanized Frieza. They humanized Broly. They did a lot of stuff that.
See, I feel like they did it best with Boo was one of the best ones because he was just a kid.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorite kind of twist villains, is that it's this destroyer of worlds, but it's so naive. It's basically a child. And like he does all these things, he kills all these people, not realizing what he's actually doing. And then eventually he gets spared because Hercule stands up for him. And I love that. I love all three of the big saga characters. Like Frieza's my favorite, but I definitely love Boo and Cell.
Right.
But yeah, one thing I did want to bring up to the stream is I've said a lot lately that's in comics, And you know, this is one of my favorite people in the circle or the industry right now. And I mean, with Andrew, I can't stress that enough. Like, I actually do really, really love Andrew's stuff. But I say this a lot, and it's because I've planned out when Mr. Reese asked me, he's like, who would you like to have on? You know, I'm like, oh, dude, wouldn't it be so cool if Andrew Huerta was on here, if Carl was on here. And I get them on, and I do bring out the people that have the biggest changes I'd like to see in comics. Like, that's the kind of thing that I'm kind of making or sharing the changes I want to see. But yeah, I am like I said, I am very, very happy to have you on.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Seriously, guys, it's weird. You know, all this whole thing has been weird.
Yeah, 2017 and 18 were a wild ride.
Yeah, you know, I basically retired from comic books earlier in the early 2018. You know, I just quit. I just didn't want to do it anymore. I got a regular job. I was just done with the BS. And then it all came down to me just defending a friend online. You know, Donald DeLay.
Oh yeah.
He was getting jumped on Facebook, and I just jumped in.
Well, that's what I also think about with these things is when you compare the people that, you know, they like Marvel, they have Marvel, but they do not have like everyone associated with it. I don't want to be around. I would not want to work with Gail Simone or Max Visaggio.
Can I just say something real quick about like Gail?
Oh, Nerd made it. Oh, my goodness.
No, I just usually.
I didn't get. Oh, sorry.
Hey, Nerd Wonder.
Hi, I'm sorry for being late. I didn't get any of the notices till now, and I was wondering what happened. I was like, oh, I thought this was coming on now, but I never got anything till like just a few minutes ago. I'm sorry.
That's probably my fault then. I'm sorry.
Lies.
But yeah, like, and I see these different people, and I see them getting like EVS and Donald getting wronged, and like everyone makes mistakes, and that's why I really don't like the sense of, especially with social justice people, but just in general, I don't like the sense of unforgiving or like how unforgiving they all are, and how if you mess up once, that says everything about you.
It's what you know. I try to like not. You know, I try to hold back. Like, I try to give people time. You know, sometimes first impressions, you know, you never know. Sometimes just people present themselves wrong, whatever. You got to just give them a couple times, right? And,
yeah.
I usually just, you know, take a step back. I wait, and sometimes they end up being cool. But with a lot of these people, like Gail or whatever, or these other creators, they're nasty. And when I see this kind of nastiness, as someone who's actually like, I don't think Gail leaves the house because it looks like she tweets every 5 minutes. So
Lightning comes.
Yeah, it's something. So I've seen a lot of different types of people. I've gone outside, like not just comic conventions. I'm talking like just regular people. And I've interacted with like graffiti people and criminals and all these random types because of my lifestyle. People like her, there's something like wrong inside, like bad. Like, she must be a really sad person to be this nasty to people you don't even know.
That's the same thing I'd say with Ren, who, like, I always get scared when I hear her name because I feel like she name searches herself.
Oh, she's nasty too. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
like,
don't say it 3 times in a row. We'll be fine.
Yeah, she's an interesting one. She's but it feels like the more we give her more attention, the more popular she gets, and that's why the comic book critics like that hate us and loathe us, like Joe Quesada, like worship the ground she walks on.
Honestly, Joe Quesada, I can't take seriously that he put that. I can't believe he's at the position he's in because he made one more day.
He got the position because he made one more day. I was pretty sure he got it beforehand, but
just in general, like, how does that not destroy your entire career?
Well, because they believed he saved the industry, when in reality he just waited for everything to settle. He did nothing except.
He's got everything go down, honestly.
Sorry,
Sorry,
yeah,
nerd.
you ruined everything. I'm sorry. You said we said one more day, and now I have to get pissed. Okay?
Well, I think that's just the normal comic fan reaction hearing one more day.
Yeah, because he's all like, "Well, it was for younger readers and audiences," and hi, younger reader, the age group demographic that you were trying to market at the time. I dropped everything. I dropped everything as soon as that happened. I was like, "Oh, fuck this shit."
When did that? When did that happen?
And manga.
When was One More Day?
2005?
No, 2007-ish, right?
Yeah, I was like in high school, so
I think I was 20 in my early 20s.
yeah.
And even I thought it was stupid.
Well, I heard
Everybody
it
thought it was
back,
stupid.
but I was back on it. That's awful.
Everybody hates it. Everybody, like the number one horrible decision is always listed as One More Day. So it is shocking that Quesada still exists, except it's because he kisses ass. Like, that's how he trains all his people and so forth, is that you're a group of friends and family, not coworkers, family.
That's
Thus,
it feels like they're too nice. They're too nice to each other and too nasty to everyone else.
he made it. He made it that way. Like, they pretty much, I believe that's when the comic book mafia whatever started, because it was when they started.
That's one of those things you got to look at. Is this misplaced lopsided tribalism that's such a factor. And it's one of those things where I like to point out to people that tribalism on a very small level with the family makes sense, you and yours. But once you walk out that front door, you got to be individuals in a world of individuals, and you got to treat everybody with respect. You know, you can share your socks and you can share your toothbrush with your kin. It's gross, but you can do it.
Not doing that ever. No, thank you.
It's interesting as well because they have tiers. It's like they have tier levels of their status, and the lowest of the tiers is probably 65% of the workers, and they're pretty much sweatshop labor. Like, let's face it, they can pride Mags Visaggio all they want. They don't pay her jack. We've seen her like apartment. She has to go fund me for like regular resources, and she has like several roommates and an apartment of with rats infesting it. It's like,
well, same with John Layman, and he's a
Sounds like a Ninja Turtle.
They pride him. They fucking okay. That's the thing that pisses me off. I know Layman hates us. I know Layman loathes the ground we walk on. He screams about us, but I think it was something that Geeky Sparkles and Neon said is maybe they would be much more chill if they could eat. Like, that usually chills.
No, that's something that I never really thought of, and it's something I have kind of come to terms with it myself. Like, Ethan brought it up. He's the one that said, like, people who are struggling and are poor and are hungry are usually like the angriest people. They're the most, like, he's like saying that's why SJWs want to steal from the rich or from the wealthy. It's like because they have nothing. Like they want all these people who made all the money, who worked hard, and they don't want to do anything. They just want to take the money.
You can't.
And at the risk of getting political about it a little bit, one of the things you gotta realize too is that envy is expensive, right? And their whole political philosophy is built on envy. So what are they going to do? Say they were wrong about the Great Utopia?
They should. They should. just say.
But the reason I say that, bringing that up, because when Ethan said it, I was thinking about myself, and I remember the days when I was younger and when I was struggling in the industry. I was like jealous and mad too, and that's because I was broke, and I didn't have these things, the success, right? But now that I'm like in a better place, I have like
you're in a better place now.
Yeah, I have money now. I have like things that I need. I'm cooler. I'm way cooler now. Like, and I don't even care if Joe Quesada has a mansion. I don't care. As long as I have what I need, I'm good. Ethan can make.
My goal is just to be able to sustain myself.
Like, I'm completely disgusted at Joe because he lives in like really luxury while he pays everybody packing peanuts. That's my fucking issue. You work for fucking goddamn Disney. We know you get the Disney Bay bucks. Give your people. I don't give a shit if they are literally they're freelancers. Shut the fuck up. You're gonna give them health benefits and regular paychecks.
I
Well,
feel
yeah,
you.
like 'cause they get like honestly, like, I was surprised they were when I heard that Mags was making like 30 to 40K, or something in that range. I was like, that's just barely above minimum wage in my state. Like if I worked full time, even at my job, I might be able to surpass that. I work delivery. Tips and stuff, I'd probably make 30K if I went really hard in that.
Yeah, in a little bit, if I do some extra work and so forth, I can make about 30K at my job, which is it's not like the best job, but at least I'm a little bit, I'm living, but at the same
But
time,
it's all about like what you like. It's all about the individual. Like some
Yeah.
people feel like they need 60K a year, or you maybe only need 20. But the thing is with like the crazy pros or the Marvel side of things,
Yeah.
freelancing. I mean, I did it for like 10 years. That shit is not. It's horrible. It's like
Yeah,
you get paid. You finish a book. I finished. I did like 5 issues, 6 issues of Pathfinder, and then I'm thinking, oh, maybe Dynamite's going to give me more work, but they don't. Nothing is guaranteed. It's not like a regular job where you're going to get your paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like this is a crazy lifestyle, and I can understand why they're so crazy and angry. But guess what? I made that decision. Like I'm not gonna wild out on strangers on Twitter because I made stupid decisions. They have to take responsibility for it. If they don't like it, they can leave. They can get a different job. If they complain, they always complain about like, oh, I don't make things in that. Like they complain a lot, but for some reason they feel like they're the elite, they're the pros, they have it all, but somehow they still complain behind the scenes. So it's like,
I think that's how Marvel and the big two pride their people, that they like pay packing peanuts. It's like you're elite, you're a pro. Look, we put you as an Eisner Award winner, but in reality, it's just making the puppet dance. You're literally just a sweatshop worker. I don't know what's gonna take you guys, but y'all need to go and unify, you little freelancers. Like I don't know what. But
yeah, you've said that before, and I'm not like the biggest union person, but honestly,
me
I
either.
look at dudes, and I was like, "How have you guys not banded together and said, listen, this isn't fair?"
Well,
Dude,
see,
they're
here's
screwing
part of the
them over.
situation.
Especially like there are big names that like Neil Gaiman is willing to throw out 300, like whatever it was, $500 at Mark Waid and stuff like that. He's like he's willing to put up there if he feels like there's a cause. He's willing to put
those two were around for a while, so they actually do get the correct royalties, like the royalties way back in the day. So that's why they live a really nice high life, is that they can afford it because they made art when they were actually paid for this. And now they live in a society where everybody else is desperately clawing and they can just laugh at it. And
yeah, Mark Waid, Neil, Alex Ross, all those dudes, they just showed up in an era where comics were making bank.
Oh my gosh, that's
and they got lucky. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't deserve it. They're great writers, great artists. They deserve all that money, but that's gone. And now all these pros like the Mags and the Gales and whoever else, they're getting like pennies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just we're like, whatever, keep fighting, keep getting crazy over pennies. We're gonna make our
like literally. Like I feel so bad for laymen because it's like literally they pride you like that. What pisses me off as well is that image prides him as like, and this is Layman. He made Chew one of our best stories, and it's like, and yet he is living in an apartment with 5 other people. What kind of horrible sick fucks are you?
Yeah,
I don't understand that. Like, I make less than 30K. I live in the sticks. I got a house.
Yeah, you live in the
outside of, dude, Los Angeles, New York, the places these people have to live in to be cool and to stay hip. I mean, it's ridiculous. You have to.
That's part of the thing. That's part of what I understand is the need to stay hip. I mean, with technology the way it is, you can work from anywhere.
Yeah, but at the same time, it just seems so far-fetched to me, to the extent that I'm pretty sure they're ordered to. Like, this is somewhere part of their jobs, or to stay connected with the connections they need. They have to stay.
I think lives out in Texas.
Because I live in Texas. That is, like certain areas, middle of nowhere, you can get a house with the income I make. So
yeah, Nachos was saying in the chat, and he says Donny Cates wrote like 77 issues last year, and I'm willing to bet, like he says, he probably only made 20K, and like Donny Cates of all people does not deserve to be paid.
No, he doesn't. Like Donny Cates,
guy.
Ryan Stegman, they're I think in house, so I think they do get a little bit more. But if they, as soon as they're out of house, they're screwed.
I'm sure they make good, decent money. Those
Yeah,
guys.
those two. They if you actually do show hope, they will. I think you have to go up in the ranks a little bit, but then they'll put you in high tier comics, and then you're set. Like they will give you, they will keep you up to date, like you're prided. Everybody else is supposed to, and they will use you to compare to all the little guys. So then the sweatshop workers will believe they can be up to there. But nobody trains these sweatshop workers. They just kind of like let them do whatever they want because they don't want them to grow. And that's what sucks.
Honestly, I think it really says something that this new way of business is so lucrative. Like, you know, Ethan Van Sciver right now has his 700K on Cyberfrog, and Richard has 500,000 on Jawbreakers.
Yeah.
Like, and they get to keep a lot of that. Like, I mean, there's a lot of it that goes into packaging and stuff like that and shipping. But Richard is going to be able to, like, Richard and Ethan are going to walk away with several $100,000.
Yeah, which is great. He could literally, they could literally retire with that. There's no problem with that.
It goes beyond the money too. They own the characters.
They own the characters. They get to decide when they're done. They get to make the stories. They get to listen to the fan feedback.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, I think it's a little. Like, I do think it sucks to be either of these guys right now because everyone's trying to attack them. You know, you've got psychopaths out there taking videos and editing them so that they look like they're these monsters that worship the KKK and stuff like that.
Oh my god, those things were so nuts. But I think that it will kind of calm down a little bit once Jawbreakers is printed. It's going to be shipped soon.
That's their biggest thing. It's like, oh look, he hasn't shipped it yet. He's in trouble.
As soon as it's sent, as soon as it gets into the first people's hands, they can't say anything anymore because literally there's so many people that do these Kickstarters and never fulfill them. We got
Richard Pace.
We got a lot of them actually. Richard Pace. We got a ton of them at DC that don't finish.
No, there's actually a ton on the SJW side that don't finish for some reason.
Yeah. No,
and they don't comment on it either. Like they don't say, "Hey, listen, it was it was a mistake. I had to cancel the project."
They don't even get in trouble for it.
No,
well, Kickstarter has a policy, like they said, you have to accept that when you pay the money that you need to accept that there's a chance that this will never happen.
Yeah. But not even from Kickstarter. I mean, from their own community.
Oh yeah, no,
it's like
I find it really weird that the fans don't
out like that.
From what I know as well, it's like there's whispers. You know, they do that in the background, like they'll whisper about it, and I think they get kind of marked for a bit, but it doesn't matter if you're like if you make prettier art or smut or whatever on Tumblr or something like that, people will come back. But yeah, there's like a lot of this happens and it sucks, but it's not only here, it's in a lot of other communities and so forth. Like, dude, we all saw Fire Festival. We all saw a bunch of video game stuff, like what was it, like Ant Simulators like that, and in the end he announced that they had to cancel the project because one guy ran off with all the money to buy booze and hookers, and nobody.
I heard about that. Yeah, like all these different stories where people just take Kickstarter money, it never comes out, or the product does come out. Or Mighty Number 9. I mean, maybe it's better if that game got if you know.
And like
it was slightly SJ. It could be slightly blamed by SJWs, but it also could be blamed that he thought too big and he didn't think about the costs. Because literally, if you got rid of the voice acting, he could have saved so much more money into working.
I forget the year. I don't know if it was like 2012, 13. When did Kickstarter kind of blow up?
I'd say like 2013.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just say around that time. Around that time, I backed a. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was this guy who was going to make like a comic book, a documentary on the industry, and he was getting interviews from everybody, like Eric Larson. Stevenson, just every creator, it was going to be amazing. I was hyped for it. So I backed it. And he actually had interviews in the trailer and everything. This guy raised over $20,000. He disappeared.
gosh.
Yeah, I've heard way too many stories about this. My brother actually got duped recently with and funny enough, this eventually ties back into social justice, but not in the first place. Like he got duped by this Evil Dead 2, the board game. And he backed it. It looked so cool. He bought the extra tier where they had Nazi deadites. And he was like, "Oh, dude, you can have Ash Williams fighting Nazi deadites," and he was so excited.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, and the it just kept getting delayed. And then before we know it, we were at the comic shop one day, and there's this thing as an Evil Dead 2 coloring book. He opens it up, and it's pictures from the Kickstarter. Like they just resold them as an adult coloring book. And then we looked it up, and it was handed off to this person, and then they stopped doing things, and they kept procrastinating, and then it was handed off to these new people, and these new people don't really do anything but complain on social media about Donald Trump all the time.
Oh, joy, our favorite.
My favorite pastime. Like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
I can understand that, like,
You guys have better hobbies, man.
but these people just let it ruin their lives.
Yeah, it's like literally, the issue is that, so I guess getting back to comics, it is amazing what this community is doing right now. Like, oh my god, people have raised up like over 100K. Some people have raised up just 40 or 20, but hey, that's still amazing. That is really impressive.
I mean,
work.
I definitely take it for my first, like, for my, if in my age, I'm about 20 years old, just turned 20. If I made some of these things that some of these younger guys did, like Nasser pulling in 15K,
yeah,
like I would flip my mind. Like I know that in the grand scheme of things, especially out here in Maryland, that's not very much. But I mean, if
It's a lot for a first time.
Maryland,
I know that sounds like craziness, but Maryland has a terrible cost of living.
Oh,
No,
I
but like,
believe it.
That's why I'm actually planning on moving, eventually moving over across the border to Sporkland, Pennsylvania.
Oh, really? Sporklands.
Well, I say that because they're from Penn.
Yeah, the Sporksman Studios guys are from Penn.
Oh, get out! Yeah, that place
We
would
had
be
them last week. That was actually, I think personally, that's one of my favorite episodes that we've done so far, is having the Sporkman guys on.
Yeah, they had a really good show. We had the Sporkman guys in the first hour, and then
Marmaduke.
and the second.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a
he's
lot of
awesome.
fun.
Sorry, I love both of them. Like,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that when they do the next Kickstarter, it'll do really well. Because
I felt terrible for them, but
total side note. They're of course they signed with Wicked, so we're going to be having regular comics coming out.
That makes me happy. I love the Wicked line.
Yeah, the Wicked line is gonna be great. I have to pick up Changeling and Sporkman from them.
Yes.
Yeah. Changeling's coming out eventually. I know, but like I think he said he's aiming for like a February. We actually we had Brett McGowan on one time. That was really great. I'd love to have Deputy Rust, but he said he's not comfortable with this sort of thing just yet, and that's understandable.
Yeah, that's
I would love to have him on. We had Carl on of Carl's Amateur Hour. He does a lot of the. I share him a lot. I don't know. Like I don't think either of you follow me, but I share everything Carl puts out. He does a lot of these Popeye, older Fleischer looking stuff.
Sweet.
I love sharing that.
I love Carl's stuff.
I feel like I've made both friends and people I can admire from an artistic standpoint.
I love.
And to be a dork, I'll say also from an autistic standpoint.
I love this.
That was a dorky thing to say.
That was a dorky thing to say, but can I blame it on autism?
No.
Yes,
No.
I will. It is mine. I control it.
I love this community so much for.
That's what I love it. It's these. I had no idea that this existed because when I looked up comic communities back in 2015 and stuff like that, they were all really hostile, really elite.
Yeah.
Like everybody and their mother was saying, "You don't read comics. You're not a real fan." And there was no real discussions about things. There was either there was a lot of you like this book or you secretly hate women and minorities.
Oh, that's so much fun, isn't it?
My biggest thing I hated about that is this was before the big pushback from society about that.
Yeah.
I was sitting there feeling alone. I was like, wait, am I really crazy? Or is like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And, eventually other people came out and said the same thing. And I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, like we used to, I used to be part of well, I still am. I go into the crawl space and I would, and I was really into Spider-Man. I was rapidly reading all the old stuff and like trying to catch up on Ultimate Spider-Man because I stopped reading for the longest time because of One More Day and so forth, but decided to pick it up again after they wrote Renew Your Vows. So I started reading again, and I went to this crawl space forum, and we just ranted about Spider-Man all day. And I started learning more and more about Spider-Man, like the issues I couldn't acquire and stuff. They would help me get them, and then they would upload videos because they were also pissed off. They were also pissed off at all the bullshit that was going on. I was like, I'm too scared to say that, and they started posting videos there, and mostly it was Doug Ernst and Appa Bend. And sometimes I'd impaled it, and then DNC showed up. Like, did you hear about this guy? And we're like, who's this guy? And then, like, and it just went from there.
I think it's so funny that he's managed to turn this entire thing on its head and create a lucrative side pot industry.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that records crappy quality videos of his crotch in the car.
Dude, I bet he's going to pay off all his kids' college with that.
But
You know what's crazy?
Drop out all the
Mark
child.
Wade's gonna pay for his kids' college. Let's be honest here.
Mark Wade is going to come in there. Mark Wade is really set himself up.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to get all that money from Mark Wade, and then there's
the thing with Meyer is that he was only able to do this because of what he said is true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
If it wasn't true, if nobody thought the same stuff he did, none of this would have happened.
He certainly wouldn't have gotten 9,000 people to back his Kickstarter and buy his stuff.
Yeah, and these guys are still growing. You know, it has slowed down a little bit, like Ethan and Richard, but it's growing. Like, you know, more people see this stuff, and I see these things where people are saying, like, yeah, I joined in after I was watching Comedy Central, and I saw Jim Jeffries. I felt like he was editing you out of context, and I had to look up more. And other people were just like, you know, I heard about they do this and that. This one person said that I wish all Republicans were killed by like a bomb, and all the Republican senators. One of my favorite TMNT colorists said this, that I wish every Republican senator was just killed, and I would just dance for the next 3 days.
That's not cool, man.
Yeah, I was disgusted. Like, I was reading because and then I noticed they always like to push people like me out. Like, I always felt like, you know, when they first started their whole thing, it's like comics are for everyone. So here's a Muslim American, and here's this and that, and like I was first like, yeah, you know what? You're all humans. You know, we all love each other. And it's like, except for Republicans, and like the fan base is really hostile against them. The creators are really hostile against them. And I was like, hey, I didn't say anything to you guys. Like, why are you trying to kick me out?
I honestly am not a Republican, but I have.
I know you aren't, and I think Andrew is actually in the same boat, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't want to.
There's a lot of us that aren't Republicans.
Yeah, a ton of us aren't. But
that's what got to me, is I felt like I was being pushed out. Like, because of the way these people talk about me and said I deserve to die, that I deserve to be like publicly executed and all these other things. Like, they give it into detail. It was disgusting.
Yeah, it was terrible. That's why I've always been like, no, they're allowed to be here. They're allowed to write. They're allowed to draw here because it's freedom of speech. And honestly, if we lived in a single world where we all thought the same, what would be life?
Yeah, like, I always felt like, I've talked about this a million times. I felt like a lot of these people that are so ironically intolerant, when I was younger, we were taught about, like, you know, we're taught about certain issues like abortion and stuff like that. You're like, oh, I don't like that. And then we were explained to me that the people that liked it were evil. We explained to them, well, this is how they view things, and it's, you know, it's different from the way you think, but it's like it's more of a disconnect in the way that you guys think, rather than these people are evil and hate everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's something I feel like these people were never, these Marvel people were never told, because they just get it my way or the highway. It's me or the Nazis.
Yeah, it's a very
It's a very juvenile way of thinking about things.
Yeah, honestly, they've kicked out so many liberal people, like people that are pretty much on their side of the political spectrum. But it's crazy, like what the Clownfish TV people, they didn't have a clue what Comics Day was, and they just wrote a list of, this is the sales of comic books, they're going down, and everybody accused them and then blasphemized them. The Axe Cop creator literally looked this up for a few minutes and said, I don't think they're like,
I don't think they're hate group. Now he's on a blacklist. Yeah,
they blacklisted him, and he's like,
it's
what?
Otis Frampton, and I was ready to flip the table, because Otis is one of the sweetest. Like, he's I'm not gonna I hate. I do like to pat people on the back a lot, but you, nerd, you're like one of the like sweetest people on the whole internet.
Oh,
And it's like if they went after you and put you on a list like that made me mad.
I love Otis. Like, honestly, I am so amazed that I get to go talk to him because when I was a school teacher, I bought his books. Like, I went to my comic book shop and I'm like, I need to find stuff for kids because I want to encourage them to read, and I think comic books would help. And they go, have you tried the Oddly Normal series? The kids.
Yeah, with Otis, I remember hearing that I think my sister actually met him because he described, let's see. Oh, Nachos right now. He said, "I hope that Matt talks to me about me like that." Yeah, I love all of you. You all. It used to be that I just talk about my girlfriend all the time, and I still do. Carl can tell you that much. But my Nachos, like I talk about when I'm with my girlfriend, always sharing all these jokes that I got from Carl and from Nachos and from Donald and stuff like that. And the Donald ones are usually very saucy. I share those with like my guy friends.
Yeah, Donald has some very sharp things to say about the world.
Yeah, he has some interesting. It's like not always stuff I would even like. I was like, oh, I would never say that myself. But like I don't think he's a bad person or he's irredeemable or anything like that. Especially when he's just trying to joke. Like, all right, the girlfriend's in the chat saying ooh woo. All right, anyone want a girlfriend? I'm offering this one up. She doesn't work anymore.
Aww.
Nah, I love her too much. Yeah, I talk about like these people all the time, and like not in a stalkerish way, just because I love being part of a community, and I kind of like to put myself in a sub community, like say this is the Mattriarchy community or something like that, like the people I interact with. Like I'll claim ownership. Nacho says he's mine, Danielle. Oh, now these two begin to square off in the chat.
Great.
Hey guys, I'm gonna interrupt for a second here. I'm going to try to leave without leaving the stream open because you guys are having such a great conversation, but I have to leave.
Okay, I'll keep going.
Before I go, because I got to go pick my kids up. Before I go, I do want to go ahead and let everybody who's watching and anybody who watches later know that next week we are having an exclusive because our Kickstarter, or Indiegogo, I think we're actually going to be doing, will be launching on Friday, on the 1st of February for Exposition of Vox Populi. We're going to be hopefully interviewing the other two creators that are going to be part of that process, Barry Tetz and Rico Kobos. Are going to be on, hopefully. We're talking about our perks and our levels and all that kind of stuff then as a sneak peek for folks, and talking about all that kind of stuff. I'm being selfish next week.
I'll be the interview guy. I mean, I guess I do tend to ask a lot of the questions and talk a whole bunch, but I feel like that's
Andrew, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciated talking with you. And Nerd,
thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Talk to you more.
I love to talk to you again. I'm sorry for being so late.
No, that's fine.
I was actually worried
If you're willing to, we'll have you back next month.
I would love to come back. Oh my gosh, this is so much fun.
Any of you guys, if like I've said this to everybody, if you ever want to come back, the Squirkman guys have talked to us about this. I'd love to have you on. We're actually, I was talking to Donald about having him sometime in February, and surprisingly, he did say yes. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh yeah, he's always down. So yeah, hit him up.
Yeah, I'm
going to take off. You guys, if you want to keep talking, feel free. And then everybody leaves, I think it'll shut itself off. So, but anyway, have a good week, guys, and enjoy.
See you around.
all right.
I think I heard that it'll last for like 2 hours after the person leaves.
That's there was a week where Mr. Reese that's what Danielle calls him. There was a week that he wasn't here, and I called it the house party, and I had to do it on Carl's channel because I didn't know you had to get approved for streaming. I thought you could just click the button and go. I'd never done that before, and so we crashed on Carl's couch for that week, and we were like up until like 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we were just laughing about it. And my girlfriend texted me the next morning, and she's like, 5 hours. And I was just like, oh, laughing. I was like, yes. Okay, now they're squaring off in the chat. It says we have to duel. He says, Nacho says he loves me talking about pickled food. I think it's interesting hearing Nacho talk about British food because it's like people eat this. Talk about muffins with bread in them, and that one sounded good. He talked about like there's been a lot of food that I've been introduced to that I've never heard of before because of him. See, he says, yes, my charming Englishness always triumphs. We have to do okay. Yeah. I love this. It's like I am their god and they are my subjects.
Actually, I don't know what the channel is, and I would love to subscribe. So,
this channel that we host all the streams on is it's MD Reese, Matt, or that's the other Matthew. It's Mattriarchy because it's the two of us. We're both named Matt. And we decided it'd be more fun if Matt's ruled the world rather than Wen or Women. So that's how that kicked off. But yeah, this is his channel is MD Reese. It should be linked on his Twitter page. Like he put the link up a lot.
aha! I found it.
Yeah, I'm still getting used to your on Twitter, nerd. Your Morgana picture.
Oh, thank you.
Or Carl, I think Carl's planning to swoop in and steal me now because he's watching them tear each other apart from the shadows.
Okay, hang on.
Like, this is a harem anime, but with mostly men.
Yeah, I guess.
I get to America on the floating door, and then I will reach his house. Well, yeah, he's got the benefit. I mean, I am closer to the East Coast. He's gonna beat Danielle in her like less than 10-minute drive to my house. I like this. I like this a lot.
Did you go day? I mean, I'm so sorry once again that I did not come in early enough, but
Well, I was like I said, I was worried that your car lit on fire again.
Again, no, this is a new car. I got it from an auction, meaning that somebody got shanked in it.
Oh, geez.
It's a very nice car. I mean, hey, you get it for cheaper if somebody. I'd rather have it be owned by somebody that was moited than they got arrested for for drugs or something because I'm worried they would come back for it.
I'm always scared that if you find cars that cheap, that there's always something that's too good to be true. So like it either doesn't work, or it's haunted, or something like that.
Get the murdered cars; they're so much cheaper. I feel so bad for saying that.
Hey, someone has to drive them.
I felt bad because I wanted to support you, or because someone had suggested that we tried to crowdfund your car at Christmas time, and you're like, no, I can't do that to people, and like. I was opening my wallet up because like I felt so terrible that right at Christmas time you were out of a car.
It was very nuts. I didn't want anybody to know about that because it was the holidays, and I really don't want you guys to spend money on me when you should be spending it on your family and so forth. It worked out. It worked out very well because that's where if you guys would like to know, yes, that's where the Graveyard Shift money I got from. That's where the ash cam.
Oh, I feel terrible about that. Yeah, now they're
No, that's a good thing because then I didn't waste it on bullshit. I purchased something very important.
Honestly, I feel like if I get a lot of money, people are gonna walk in my room and be like, Matthew, what have you? And there's just pop figures everywhere. It's like I made a mistake.
Yeah, so I think I will name the car. I have not named the car yet, but maybe it'll be called Graveyard Shift. I don't something like that.
Working the Graveyard Shift, yeah, just for. John Malin, that was really cool. I didn't back the campaign, but I knew you were involved in it, and I don't know. I love seeing because like you've kind of become an icon. You and your little cat, like you're in the background of Changeling 1 and stuff like that.
Yeah, like that moves me to no extent that people are like, oh my gosh, can I like? Yeah, you went up to me and they asked like, can I add your character in here? And I'm like, oh my god, yes, I love that. And they're like,